it didn't care. It still became the empire, lasted for 1,000 years, okay? Even today, we still worship Rome. The Aztecs were known for human sacrifice. Didn't matter. They still became the empire of Mexico. The British, they created all these wars in Europe. They enslaved the Indian population and destroyed their economy and stole trillions of dollars from them. They addicted Chinese to opium. Do we ever talk about this? I mean, like, if we had an opinion poll back in the 1850s, I think most of the world would be like, the British Empire is evil. They're genocidal. We still worship the British Empire today. Okay? So public opinion does not matter. We've come to this delusion that our opinions matter in geopolitics. It doesn't matter in geopolitics. What matters is power. Okay? Oh, that's it, guys. Wow. Oh, well, okay. All right. We did it, guys. We did the midterm, okay? So hopefully I did well on this midterm. We'll also have a final examination, so I look forward to that. But thank you for the questions, and we will take a 1-week break next week, and then we'll come back and continue game theory and our analysis of the US-Iran war. So any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have like 2 main questions, and Vincent also sent me some of his questions. My first question is about the global economy. Like in one previous discussion, you argued that the US-centric global economic system would collapse after the Iran war, leading to the remilitarization of various nations and severely disrupting the global trade. However, why a new global economic system created one or a few countries will not emerge? Because even though the system would inevitably create significant inequality among the countries, it would still bring substantial wealth and economic benefits to participating nations. Why create which I think will create motivation for these countries to build it.
Okay.
And historically, after the age of explorations, I think the collapse of each imperial systems lead to the rise of the new empires. For example, the Spanish Maritimes collapsed and the British Empire gradually replaced. And after the World War I and II, the American became the empire and that replaced the British. So why won't this happen again?
Okay. So the basis of the global economy is the US dollar. Okay? So what is the US dollar? The US dollar is basically a contract system. Okay? So when I use US dollar, basically it's a contract that our trade will be honored, okay? Right? But with a contract system, you also need an enforcement mechanism. Okay? Meaning, look, if you don't honor the contract, then someone has to come beat you up, right? Otherwise, you'll just ignore the contract. So that's what the US military is for. All right. Now, there's certain problems with this system. The first problem is that it's actually very costly to create a contract system. Okay, why? Because you're absorbing all the risk. Okay? So you're the US economy, you print US dollars to enable the world to trade with each other. Okay, but when you do that, you are collecting a tax, but at the same time, it's putting tremendous strain on your economy. Okay? Because this leads to financialization, which is just risk and speculation. Okay? So all this excess money is being created around the world, and you have to absorb it into your economy, which causes inflation, which causes things to be unaffordable to your people. All right? So that's the first problem, okay? It's really expensive on the population. The population in America must absorb the cost of excess liquidity in the world. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. The second problem is the military. The military must be willing to fight any wars around the world at any time. Okay? So the question then is there any nation in the world besides America that's one, willing to absorb the cost of creating a contract system, being the global reserve currency, and number two, that's willing to fight a war to enforce this mechanism anytime, anywhere in the world? And the answer is no, hell no. Okay? This system is retarded. It is unbelievable that America agreed to the system in the first place. And most Americans would say, well, we just got stuck with this system. And certain people benefited from the system, but most people don't actually benefit from the system. So the idea that anyone is going to come and say, oh, we'll just take over the system, whether it be Russia or China, that's just retarded, okay? No one's gonna replace America. So the global economy is just gonna fracture. Because again, no one's willing to accept the cost to be the global reserve currency. It's just too expensive. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
But so, why cannot like some regional powerful country like Japan and Germany, as you mentioned before, or American, like they form into a group that will together build a global economic systems?
Because ultimately, you have to resolve the issue of benefit, okay? Okay? Like, we have to negotiate who benefits. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's hard for nation states to figure that out. It's much easier to have an empire. It's much easier for me to impose my power onto you. But for us to work together peacefully, maybe for a couple years, okay? But it's very unsustainable. All right? Why? Because of domestic concerns. Because your population will want to maximize the benefit from this relationship. Okay?
And so my second question is about the value of the culture of the world. As we discussed before, this world today is highly materialistic, with money and the pursuit of material possessions becoming the main driving forces in society. And in your vision of in the future, believe that people will place greater emphasis on religion and spiritual life. But how exactly will this transformation occur? Because if this will occur through war or suffering, then as in history we go through World War I and World War II, many people die and many tragedy happen. But it seems that this value, this materialistic value, doesn't change, because that's what we have today.
Okay, so I didn't say everyone will experience this transformation. What I'm saying is that those who undergo the transformation will most likely survive the coming world collapse. Okay, so you can choose to say, I want to be materialistic. You can do that, and most people will choose to continue to want to be materialistic, but they won't survive. Okay, and those who do undergo this transformation will survive. And why do they undergo the transformation? Because they see the world collapsing around them, and they are looking for comfort. They're looking for a story. They're looking for an explanation, and so they turn to religion. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, and the reality is that, look, in the coming 50 years of all this chaos and war, I would say 90% of humanity will be wiped out. And a lot of these people will be because they refuse to adapt to the new world. They refuse to believe that a new world is coming and they should prepare for it. Okay? They refuse to change their minds. Okay? Any more questions?
I have some questions of Vincent, you will want me to ask.
Maybe two, okay?
Okay, yeah. The first is, he had some question about ours as an individuals in this world. He said that if our efforts are defined based on the consequentialism of secret society and other definitions, what is the significance of our efforts? Isn't it still exacerbating the secret society? Do we have a way to define our own value? Or can we only live in the eye of others?
Yeah, it's absolutely pointless to worry about secret societies. It's absolutely pointless to worry about others. what you can do is live your life to the best of your ability. Okay, you can be focused on learning, on developing yourself spiritually, and intellectually, and emotionally. You can be focused on reading books, on asking questions. Okay, and if you do that, you'll be fine. So stop worrying about secret societies, stop worrying about the end of the world, and just focus on your own personal transformation. Okay. All right,
So,
one more.
Another question is related to the Chinese students. He said that how do you think Chinese students who are currently studying in the United States will be perceived in the future, while Chinese people discriminate against us, U.S. American students in the future?
Look, the reality is that the age of globalization is over. The idea that Chinese students learn English, hop on a plane, go to America to study for 4 years, and come back and get a good job, that era is over. And quite honestly, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know why Chinese students do this in the first place. Okay? Again, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that China is not a real nation state. It's just a projection, a mirage created by the global economy. But I mean, Chinese students now are focused on getting the degree in America. It's just a piece of paper. Chinese students don't care enough about an education, about learning. Okay, that's a great myth about Chinese students in this world, where Chinese students are the best in the world because Chinese students love learning and are disciplined. That's not true. Chinese students are extremely motivated. They care about the grades. They care about the degree. Once you take that away from Chinese students don't even know what to do. They play video games every day. They just sit around and do nothing. Okay? So if Chinese students are to thrive in the future, they need to learn passion. They need to learn intrinsic motivation. They need to love learning for itself. All right? Okay. All right. So that is it. Thank you for the midterm. And I will see everyone the week after. Okay? So we're taking a break next week.